So good morning from beautiful central Portugal. It's just me today because we've had quite a tough week. I think what happens with Gary and I is we come back from travelling and there's so much work to do when we get back in the house. We just never seem to get on top of all the jobs that you have to do, just being away for 6 weeks. And so we kind of go 10 to the dozen with everything. And then we end up in a situation where we get really burnt out and very, very tired. And we're kind of at that point now. So this week it's going to be a shorter video just with me. Gary's gone off to have a bit of a man day. So he's gone off on a bike ride in Porto. How's it going there, Gaz?
Thank you, Shelley. Hopefully you can hear me. I am here in Porto, at Royal Enfield in Porto. Hola, bon dia. So gathering here for this big tour, very excited. We reckon we're going to have about 40 bikes here, I think, in total. Got a great looking day for it. I've met a few of my old friends as well, and there's such a great range of bikes, so very, very excited. Yes, so we'll be on our way soon, so I must hurry up. But what I do want to do is give a shout out to our new subscribers, new and old subscribers. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for sticking with us as well. In particular, I wanted to give a shout out as well to people who have booked coaching calls with us to help with their move to Portugal. So I've got a few names I'm going to read out, which I can't remember, but we've got Dave and CN, thank you very much, Carol and Nicholas, Nita and Misty, Stephanie and Peter, Diana and Claudia. Thank you very much, and we truly hope that we've helped you on your journey. So I'm very excited, as you can see. I'm going to get myself sorted, go grab a coffee with the boys and girls here, and back over to you, Shelley.
I'm so happy that he's doing something for himself today. He really needed a rest. He needed a man day. And we all need that time, don't we? Sometimes we all need that time away from all our responsibilities just to go and have fun. So I'm sure he'll have a great day. And I'll look forward to hearing the tales later. So anyway, on to today's video. And we're going to talk this week about the top 5 mistakes that we see people make when they come to Portugal. We've categorized them literally into the 5 key ones so that you can understand some of those common errors, and we see them every single day with friends, with clients, with friends of friends. We see them on Facebook. People report what they're doing or what's not worked out for them. So we've compiled this top 5 and we think that'll be really useful for any of you who are thinking about moving to any country, actually, because it doesn't just apply to Portugal, it applies to any big move that you're making abroad. So why don't you join me as we walk around the village and we'll go through it. Actually, before we go, I do need to tell you part of the things that have been adding to that sort of I'm not going to call it stress, but just things to deal with and jobs to sort out, is that we've got cat gate. We have had a mummy and 4 kittens, and daddy seems to be coming and going as well, move into our barn, which I think we've talked about the barn before. We're going to be renovating it soon. So we've kind of got a new family to look after as well. And we're not really cat people. We've always had dogs, so we just don't know a lot about cats. So we're trying to kind of look after them and not disturb them. But we do want to catch them because we want to neuter them, because it's such a big problem here with cats just breeding. So potentially we could catch 5 of them and make sure that they never recreate again. So we're trying to build trust with them so that we can do that, but that's taken up a lot of our time this week as well. So if you've got any experience of this, please do leave us a message in the comments. So a bit of a land update while I'm starting my walk. We have talked to our builder. They're going to be coming soon to start the work here, and this will be creating a parking area, and we'll be having a big metal pergola, which I'll show you further on in the village. the style we want, very sort of traditional Portuguese. And we're going to go grapevines up and around the pergola, and we'll have one of the cars parked here, and then another parking space down here. And eventually with our barn, we hope to be able to offer B&B accommodation. So in the future, you might be able to come and stay with us, and this extra parking will work really well for that. And if I turn back round, you can see the barn there. So the land, we're in a slightly better place in that we have had the digger guy come back, and he removed the big mountain of dirt, and he certainly spread a lot of it out as well. And then we had the tractor man come, who also helped to level this out. So we're kind of getting to a place now where we can start to work on this. We've found a new gardener. He's really good. He's a Dutch guy, and he's going to help us do some of this, because Gary and I's skills in the area of gardening are a little challenged. We're enthusiastic, but we're certainly not experienced. Over here, you might just be able to see, if I move my finger, my neighbours Katia and Messiah. She's a lovely friend of mine, brings me lots of vegetables. They've got a wonderful plot of land here. They're very experienced in what they do, and as I better learn the language, it'll be great to talk to her more, because she's got so much experience of working the land, and they're lovely people. And then down here you've got my lovely neighbour Esmeralda. She's 88, lovely lady. We just hug and we say the odd word to each other, and again, I'd love to be able to talk to her more, because she's such a nice lady. So mistake number one, choosing the wrong location for your life. You don't need to hit perfection, okay? When you come to Portugal for your first location, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to land somewhere safe, comfortable, and at least a little bit familiar from the life that you're leaving behind. But a big mistake that we see is people romanticising the location. And to give you an example of that, because I did this, you sit at your desk at work in a big city with all the conveniences known to man, and you fantasize about what you don't have, right? I used to sit there thinking about having a quinta, having chickens, having 10 acres of land, growing your own vegetables. But you don't actually think about what that life would take, and actually how far removed it is from your current life. You know, you might be retired and you've always lived in a village, and then you think, oh, I'm retired now, I want to go and live in a city. You know, I think that would be great. I'll have lots of connection. There'll be lots of things to do, but in fact, some of those places can be really lonely to start with. So this is where we say, take baby steps. This is why a lot of people say rent, don't buy. Take baby steps. Get here first. Get here, get somewhere comfortable, you know, that's slightly familiar to you. And then from there, if you want to have a life of having your own farm, chickens, and all the rest of it, you can do it. You can move towards it. You can research it. You can go visit places, but don't just do it straight off the back, because to go from there to there, that is where people make a big mistake, no matter what they think they're capable of in their minds. So you also need to think about the stage of life you're at, and I'm going to tell you the story of Ray. Ray was a guy that I met through a Facebook group, British Facebook group, And him and his wife, they moved to Portugal. They bought a house in a very rural location, and there was only 3 houses in this location, and the other 2 were occupied by Brits. So they bought that house, they moved over, and then Ray had a heart attack not long after moving to Portugal. And he had quite a horrific experience with not knowing the language, phoning the ambulance, not able to communicate with the ambulance, and it really freaked them out. And what happened, he's all right by the way, but what happened is that they gave up their whole life in Portugal. Suddenly Portugal was terrible, it was awful, they couldn't speak the language, he'd had a heart attack, they wanted to be near their family, and they hadn't thought these things through before they went. At their age in life, with their health, would it be a good idea to go and live in the middle of nowhere? Would it be a good idea to go and live where there's just English people? They probably thought that was good. But actually, you need Portuguese people around you, because Gary and I have already worked out what would we do if something happened to us. You know, we've got a little practice sheet in our office that we can use to speak to an ambulance, but we also know what neighbours we could go to help us if we had a problem. So look, I'm not saying we're great because we've done that, but I learnt that from the Ray story, that being prepared and understanding where you're moving to is really important. So they gave up their whole life just because they bought the wrong house in the wrong location. So do think about the stage of life that you're at. So don't aim for perfection on landing. Aim for safe, comfortable, and a little bit familiar if you can. Then you can think about making your dreams come true, whatever they are. Okay, so mistake number 2 is getting the wrong rental or property. And again, this is a bit of romanticising. So people, they look at properties online. Sometimes they can't get here to look for themselves, or they don't employ people to do it for them, like the services that we do. And they kind of look at somewhere and they think, oh yeah, that'll be okay for a year. It doesn't matter if it hasn't got heating, it's really cheap, it'll do. Listen, a year can be a long time, and a cold house can be hell as well. So you really need to focus on getting somewhere, just like I said with the location, safe and comfortable and convenient for you. Don't wing it, don't fudge it, because a year can be hell when you're in the wrong place. And what happens, we've seen, to people that choose the wrong property, or you know, the wrong rental, is that it kind of, when you're in a cold place, when you're in somewhere you don't like, when you've got a flat that's got mold on the walls, you just start getting discontented. You start seeing all the bad things in Portugal rather than all the good. And that is, my friends, the start of discontent. And once you start seeing things in a negative light, because you're not happy where you are, you start seeing everything potentially in a negative light. And suddenly you look for all the things that are wrong with Portugal rather than all the things that are right. So it is crucially important, same way with the location, that first year you find the right place to live. Gary's going to tell me off. Not only am I using the wrong camera, but I have forgotten to put the microphone on. So I do apologise if the sound's not up to our usual standards. Anyway, mistake number 3. Believing Portugal is cheap. Yes. We still hear this way too much. It still gets publicised way too much on YouTube. Portugal's so cheap. And yes, compared to London or San Francisco, yeah, it probably is, but that's not the full picture, is it? Long-term rentals now in some areas, they're not even expensive. They're eye-watering expensive. You know, we're seeing the prices, some of the prices in Lisbon and Porto, they're just crazy. So, you know, groceries, petrol, DIY stuff, all of those sort of things, we pretty much pay what we used to pay in the UK. It might be a bit cheaper than what you used to pay in the US, but those prices are fairly like for like. Where you tend to see the benefit as a foreigner is on the price of housing. If you purchase a house, that it might have a difference to your home country price. And also the cost of healthcare if you come from somewhere like the US, that will be cheaper. If you come, sorry, my hair is looking shocking. If you come from the UK, we have to pay a lot of council tax in the UK. You don't pay as much here. So there are some differences that offer value for money, but it is not cheap here. And if you buy imported goods, anything like DIY, sofas, home goods, they can actually be a lot more expensive than your home country. And again, people come here and they think, oh yeah, this is great. They come on holiday or they look at YouTube and they don't base themselves with a realistic budget. And even we've been caught out by this. We'll probably do an update to our cost of living 2025 video. We'll probably do an update to that in 2026. And I can tell you now, there are a lot of costs that have gone up, and there are things that even we didn't count on being expensive here, or extra costs that we had to pay. So it's really important to understand this and base yourself with a realistic budget with a buffer, because I can guarantee you'll probably go through the buffer. So mistake number 4, not going eyes wide open coming to Portugal. So what we kind of call looking at the Forbes magazine version of Portugal rather than the real Portugal. Again, we've done a video on this. It's really important you understand the not so good side of Portugal. Have you looked at taxes? Have you thought about the implications of that? Because you can be damn sure taxes will be higher here than your home country. A lot of people just leave that stuff to chance. They move their whole life, they don't think about tax, then they get here and they're like, oh, I need to start thinking about tax. Oh my God, the taxes are so high, I'm leaving. So that's kind of one example. And understanding that Portugal is not perfect. It is not a perfect country. There is no such thing as a perfect country. And so you are really well served to spend your time researching, I don't want to call it the dark side of Portugal, but the not so nice things about Portugal. Because then when you get here, you're not surprised. And being surprised causes a lot of people discontent. So have your eyes wide open. What is the food like here? What are the conveniences like? What's going to be different to where you live now? What's housing like here? How do they treat animals here? Where's the nearest Uber? You know, what's the supermarkets like? All of these things can affect your experience. So have your eyes wide open. Yes, look at all the good stuff. Of course, look at all the good stuff. But please, please, please also look at the not so good. And then you will have a really good balanced view and you'll know what to expect when you get here. As a final note on that, you can get ripped off here really easily. When you buy a house, when you do building work, people can take your money and disappear. It's quite frequent. It doesn't just happen to foreigners, it happens to Portuguese as well. And so that is another thing to think about, is that if you are buying a property and you want to do renovations, you're moving into a world where you need to move very carefully. And still now, every day I see posts about people saying they got ripped off. and they just gave money. They gave a massive deposit for a building work. They gave this, they gave that, because they just thought it was like their home country, and it's not. So make sure you take note of that. So mistake number 5, not learning the language and not building connections. Now, I think it's well documented. Portuguese isn't the easiest language to learn, but not trying, honestly, that's the real mistake. Because everyday things here, going to the post office, going to the doctors, going to the dentist, you name it, you have to do it when you get here. And you will need to have some basic Portuguese. And the Portuguese are a very tolerant people, but there does come a limit. And a friend of ours who has been here about 13 years went for a consultant appointment at the hospital. And the consultant said to her, "Do you speak Portuguese?" And she said, "No, could you fala inglês?" And the consultant said, "Next time you come for an appointment, you'll have to bring a translator, because I'm not going to speak to you in English. You've been here 13 years. You should be able to speak the language." Now, that was probably a bit harsh, but I think the kind of message that was being given there is you need to make an effort to integrate. So learning the language is really important, and next week, the week after, we're going to talk about our experience of learning the language, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, because it's not easy, but you can make progress and you can get to a level where it helps you fit in. In terms of building connections, when you arrive, this is so important. Even if it's just a local Facebook group, you need to build community. And believe it or not, Gary and I we're actually introverts by nature. And everyone always says, "Oh my God, how can you be introverts?" But we are. It's not our comfort zone going out there, meeting new people. But we've really pushed ourselves out of our comfort zone here, because it is important to build community and build that community quite quickly. The Portuguese, they're really warm, they're really friendly, but they will not open their arms to you straight away. They are quite reserved, they're quite, to their own families and friends. They don't let outsiders in very easily. And for example, for us, it took us about a year for our neighbours to even say hello to us, bom dia. We used to drive in the morning, not drives, because I've just seen a car. We used to walk in the morning past our neighbour's house with the dogs and say bom dia. Wouldn't even say bom dia to us for over a year. Now we have a lovely relationship, be it that our Portuguese is quite basic, but we do have a lovely relationship with them. So it does take time, and while it's taking that time to build that community, you do need other people to fill some of those gaps. You need to put yourself out there and meet other immigrants, join local communities, do classes, do things, put yourself out there, push out of your comfort zone, because if you do it, you really will be rewarded and start to feel like you belong. And language and community is the basis of belonging. Anyway, that is it for this week. Some of those we've covered before, but it's just really good. That's our top reminders, our top 5 things that we think really will help you settle into Portugal and not make the mistakes that others have. So thank you very much for coming along. Do like and subscribe, it really does help us. We haven't had so many views on our videos the last couple of weeks because we've sort of been doing a little bit of a hodgepodge. So it'd be great if you could like this one, so that we can get it to the right people that want to get help and would love to find our channel. So next week we'll be back to normal. Gary will be back here, and we've got some really exciting content coming up. So bear with us, and thanks very much for watching again. Ta-ra for now.